Hello everyone, I'm Sajjad Gul and today we are going to discuss about ASP.NET MVC with C#. So if you have any kind of questions related to ASP, you can ask me in the comments on this live video and I will try to answer as many as I can. So before any of you ask any questions, let me tell you about myself. I'm Sajjad Gul and I've been an ASP.NET MVC developer for about 2 years now, and I have done work on a lot of MVC projects, and as many of you know me on this C# group, and you might also know me from my website csharpens.com. So if you have any questions related to MVC, please ask. I will try to answer. Okay, so let's see what questions do we have here. I hope you can bring them on camera. Okay, so I think this actually this is my first live video, so I'm not 100% sure about all the options I'm seeing on the screen right now. So we have three live watchers. Okay, so not any questions just yet. Okay, so someone has asked, sir, please give us more information about ASP.NET MVC, that which tools are mainly used for developing projects. Okay, so first of all, until someone asks any question, let me answer this one. So ASP.NET MVC specifically is used for building or developing websites with C# programming language. Okay, so in plain words you can say that. Other than that, it's a type of architecture that you can use to build websites. Okay, and okay, so give us more information about ASP.NET MVC. Basically, if you search something about MVC, you can find MVC in almost all languages. In PHP you have Laravel. It is also a code igniter. Okay, and in MVC in C# we have MVC, and it is abbreviated for Model View Controllers. Okay, yeah, Yunus, thank you for liking this video. So if you have any question that you would like to ask about MVC, please ask. I will try to answer as many as I can. Hello Amin. Hello Bilal. Okay, so let me see questions if I have any. Okay, please ask any questions if you have. Okay, so Inamullah has asked about MVC 4 or 5. Okay, so let me talk about the versions over here. Okay, so basically there was a lot of fuss about MVC 5 version. Okay, so at MVC 5 version there were a lot of things that they wanted to implement in MVC 4, but after some time they decided to go about on a totally different version, as you can say, in MVC Core or ASP.NET Core. Okay, so if you compare both of these, you can find most of their basics are same. Okay, in MVC we have all the same things as in ASP.NET Core. The only difference I have found are related to some functionality and some development wise features. Like let me tell you one. In if you implemented some code on the controller side or the server side, like if you change some code on CS files, you will have to build your project to see the changes on your view, okay, or on the output. But in MVC in ASP Core, you don't have to build your project again. Okay, so that's one feature that I have found very useful. And another very good feature of ASP Core is that you can deploy it on Linux based servers as well. whereas ASP.NET MVC can only be hosted or deployed on Windows servers. Okay, so discuss the technique behind MVC and routing. Okay, that's another good question. Let me talk about routing. Okay, so the basic is like if you write any URL on your browser, so the first of all the request is received on MVC. We have one route config file there. Okay, so in that file we have defined almost all of the URLs. Okay, so if I try to write home/about, you will see that URL or the one that matches that URL in your root.config file. You can find root.config file in your app start folder. Okay, and most of the roots are defined here. Okay, so you can go about and do your search here. Okay, so let me sir, tell us about your location and you want to take ASP.NET MVC class with you. Okay, so Abdul Wakil Amiri has asked about MVC class. So I've been teaching MVC as well on for some time now. You can find the course on my website csharpens.com. If you go there, you can find C# teacher, and under that you can find the course content for that MVC course that you would like to take. And in the recent months, I have discontinued it for some time because of some job related issues with time constraints. So I'm sure I will try to start it again. Okay, so Hamad Wasim is watching. And Wakas, tell me how to use jagged arrays in C#. Wakas, this session is only about ASP.NET MVC, and I would like you to ask any ASP.NET MVC related question if you have. You can ask this jagged arrays in our Facebook group C#. So I'm sure some other good developers are there. They will be able to answer you. Okay, let me see other questions behind MVC and routing. Okay, so I have already Peter Godfrey Bike. It was a very good question that you asked about routing, and if you have any other question related to routing, you can ask. Basically, most of the routing is done in root.config. And inside the root config, if you go on, let me open this as well. So here you can find this root.map route syntax. Okay, so inside this usually you define what will be the name of your root. Okay, so this will be helpful in accessing it from your URL helpers. Okay, and you also define your default values here as well. Okay, so if I want to hit home controller on /home, I will define it by default here as controller home, and the action that I want to hit, like index. Okay, so I will have index action inside my home controller. We need table edit, delete, and validation by CSS and jQuery free. Ahmed God. I didn't understand your question correctly. I think almost all these things that you talk about is free. jQuery is an open source plugin that you can use for free. Basically, jQuery is a library, not plugin. Okay, we have most of the plugins written inside the jQuery language. Okay, and table edit, delete with validation. Okay, you can find many plugins for this. One good plugin that I can recommend you is Data Tables. Data Table is a very good plugin. You can use it. Okay. Is there anything you would like to ask? So basically, I decided to do these sessions because recently I took interviews of many developers for the job of ASP.NET MVC developer, and I found out that most of the fresh developers don't even know the basics of ASP.NET MVC. So Please write link in comment. Sure, Ahmed Ghat, let me Google that. Data tables. Okay. Can we directly start ASP.NET MVC without working in ASP.NET, and will ASP.NET will help us in learning ASP.NET MVC? Okay, so Abdul Wakil Amiri, I think this is a very good question that most of the fresh developers have. Even I myself, when I was in, I think about 6th or 7th semester in my university time, I didn't know anything about ASP.NET MVC or ASP.NET. Okay. So the only thing that you need to know before going into ASP.NET MVC is the basics of C# programming. Okay, because without server-side language, because C# is a server-side language that is used in ASP.NET MVC, so you need to know C# in order to work in ASP.NET MVC. And I think there are other languages like Visual Basic that is also used with MVC, but it is not very common. The most common one is C# that is used with MVC, and you need to know the basics of that. And on the front end, like HTML and CSS, you just need to know the basics like HTML tags, CSS classes, IDs, and basics. Okay, so you need to only know the basics of HTML, CSS, and C# in order to start learning or developing projects in ASP.NET MVC. What is the simplest way to send list of products that user bought into an email after an order has been placed? Aslan Amir, that is a very specific question, and I'm not sure if it is related to ASP.NET MVC, but let me answer this if I was you. Simplest way to send list of products that the user has bought. You can create a model class of product and create a list of that model class and populate that with from your database based on the IDs passed from the user order, and then you can send that to an email as an email to the user. So I hope I answered your question. Okay. Yes, it is for an e-commerce site. Okay, so Aslan Amir, yes, you can implement e-commerce websites in MVC. Even in one of my classes with beginners, I try to implement this e-commerce feature. So basically, it's easy. It's not that hard to implement that. If you already have the IDs for the product that the user has bought, you can simply create a list of list of model of the class. Okay, so let's say you have a class product that has ID and name and price and whatever you have, and then you can create the list of that product class. Okay, and you populate that with your database, and you have to use an email service like I think Somi can be used for sending emails. Okay, so I think your question may be related to how to send an email. Thanks for Sajad bro. Can I make ASP web applications with MongoDB instead of SQL or MySQL, and which is best? Okay, so first of all, let me answer your question, which is best. So I think using Microsoft SQL Server is best for using with ASP.NET MVC. Okay, and I haven't used MongoDB with MVC, but I can. I think it can be possible. I have used MySQL with MVC, and it is possible. You have to do some little bit of workaround, okay, with related to your connection string, and you have to install some other libraries that are specific to MySQL, and you can install them from NuGet package manager. Okay. For some reason, I cannot find this live video on my Facebook browser. Don't know why this is happening, but it shouldn't, as I want to read these comments on my laptop here. Okay, so is there anyone that would like to ask any other questions? Okay, so in the meantime, let me tell you about some of my basic project that how I started on MVC. Okay, so at first I was only developing desktop applications with C#, and I was very afraid to learn any new languages or any new technologies like MVC because it was hard. Let me tell you this. But when I actually graduated from my university and I had some free time, so at that time I decided to learn ASP.NET because I saw that in most of the industry has moved toward ASP.NET. Okay, so the era of desktop application, you can easily say that it's over, almost over. There are only a few companies that still uses desktop applications, but most of the applications have moved on to be web applications and can be developed in any type of framework or architecture. But most common around subcontinent like Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and many Middle East countries, they still uses ASP.NET MVC, and it is very common in their industry. So I would recommend to fresh developers who are just graduating or have graduated from universities, learn ASP.NET MVC if you want, if you already have the basics of .NET language. Okay, so Hamid Shah has asked about Unity 3D. Hamid, I'm very sorry. I have not worked on Unity 3D, and this current session is only about ASP.NET MVC. So if you have any question related to ASP.NET MVC that you would like to ask, please ask. Okay, so what are the main differences between ASP.NET MVC, ASP.NET and ASP.NET MVC, and the main advantage of ASP.NET MVC? Okay, so let's compare ASP.NET Web Forms and ASP.NET MVC. Okay, so personally, I have only explored ASP.NET Web Forms for a very little time. Okay, and I've been working and developing projects in ASP.NET MVC for about more than 2 years. Okay, and the main differences I have found is that there are server-side controls in web forms, whereas we don't have any server-side controls in ASP.NET MVC. Okay, you have to do everything with HTML and CSS. Okay, and most of the things are handled with sessions in web forms. Actually, if you click on any button, okay, it will go and hit your server side code in web forms, whereas in MVC you can work on let me simplify this one. Okay, so in ASP.MVC we have controllers and actions. Okay, so whenever you hit a URL, you go to a controller and an action inside that controller. Okay, whereas in web forms you open some class, like it's almost similar to desktop applications. Okay, so if you open a form, it will be specific to that form code. Okay, I already built email with an email builder. I'm having problem with razor view logic in view because that email.html isn't a typed view. I'm getting all orders from database. I just need to put these products in HTML file. I always use SMTP client to send emails. Okay, so Arslan Amir, I'm getting all orders from database. I just need to put those products in HTML code. Arsan Amir, if you have explored some code about Razor view, you can use C# logic inside the view. Like for example, if you have 10 products inside your list, okay, you can simply loop over those products inside your view code, or email.html, which is your file, okay, email.cshtml it would be, and you can simply go about like using for each product inside your product list, and then go about and display all of the products with the for each loop. And I'm not very sure about your implementation. If you put some code in our C# group, I will be able to answer that more specifically. And let's go back to the Abdul Waki Amiri's question. What are the advantages of ASP.NET MVC? Okay, so you can say that ASP.NET MVC is fairly recent. Almost, I think it was released in 2008 or something around that time. It's relatively easy if we compare it to ASP.NET Web Forms, okay, or the classical ASP.NET. And obviously, if there is something new, it has some more features than the previous versions, okay. Okay, so is there any other questions in this C# MVC session? Sir, please introduce yourself, your job, career. Okay, so Aman Nawaz, that's a very good question. And in the start of this session, I discussed about myself. Since we don't have any more questions as of now, so let me introduce myself again. I'm Sajjad Arif Gul, and I've been ASP.NET MVC developer for about or more than 2 years now. And okay. Okay, and that's just about it. You can once this video is complete, you can go to the start of this video, and I have discussed more in brief about myself and my job and ASP.NET MVC. Okay, so Usman server has asked a question, and that is, in .NET exception handling is necessary for the forms or not? Okay, Usman, so this question is very specific to exception handling, and this session is only about ASP.NET MVC, okay? I want you to ask questions related to ASP.NET MVC. At the moment, you can ask this question after this session is over in our C# group, C Sharpens. Okay, so Arslan Amir has asked again. Yes, by using Razor engine power, Razor view needs .cshtml extension file. My email is .html. Outlook or other email service provider doesn't support CSHTML. Okay, that's very specific. Let me see more. Brother, is there any project in which you implemented this logic? I've implemented this logic in multiple projects, but I can't share the source code of those projects because those are related to the clients. And I can share some resources or links with you after this live video. Okay, thank you. You are welcome, Eman. Okay, Usman. So actually, exception handling is not that necessary if you ask. Okay. So but you have to be sure about your code. Okay, so if you are not sure what your code will be, you have to use some kind of exception handling to be sure that your code will not be breaking on the client side or for the QA. Thank you, you are welcome. Aslanamir asked this question after this session ends in our C# group, and I will try to look at your code, and I will also share those resources with you in the comments. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so let me tell you about the Arsan. You can, if you are at the beginning stage, and if you want to look at some of my projects, sure, you can have a look at my GitHub repository. I have some of the projects that I developed for myself, for my own learning, and for my own students. So you can go to my GitHub account. It is github.com/sajjadarifgul. Okay, and here you can find many projects that I developed on MVC. One of the most important one, or one of the basic one that I would like to recommend you, is this blog project. Okay, this blog was basically if some of you know about blogging, you would know that in blogs we create some pages and some posts just like Facebook, and we post on those blogs. In those blog posts we can add any type of content over there. So this particular project that I am referring to is a blog project, and here I have used many common features of a basic ASP.NET MVC project, like user registration, user logging in, authentications, and profile management, and uploading custom profile photo, and having more than one authors on your blog, and each post can be written by